Good Wednesday afternoon, everybody. I'm Josh Slocum. This is the Disaffected Livestream. This is Jess Ann, my sister. Thank you for joining us. It is Wednesday, August 19th, 2026. Apologies if you hear the fan in the background. I've shut down the air conditioning because that's too much to make you listen to, but I will actually die. I will physically die if I don't have some air circulation. Tell them, Jesse, that almost every single day in Vermont has been 100% humidity and saturation.
It's ridiculously humid. It's so bad. And your apartment is by far and away the worst.
Well, yeah, it being halfway underground.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going out to YouTube? Can you tell if YouTube is playing us out?
I'm seeing both Rumble and YouTube.
Excellent. Okay. Thanks for the tech check-in.
Yeah.
And if anybody, thank you, Pop Art New Jersey, for saying that the audio is still acceptable with the fan. If it weren't, I'd shut it off. But then I'd blame all of you. And well, I guess my new thing would be I'd go on a killing spree. I'd kill you all. And then I would throw myself out a half-story window and break my leg. And then I'd claim that a female voice told me to do it. So we're going to talk about a dark ass topic today that has, it's made me angry, but it's also made me feel despair. Kitty, and it's a cat palooza. You guys, I have a new kitten. You know I have Mina, the 10-year-old tabby. But I have a new kitten here, too. They're getting used to each other, and both of them are now really, really battling for my attention as they battle each other. They get lots of attention, but they won't leave me alone. We're going to talk about the Lindsay Clancy. Well, we'll talk about the Lindsay Clancy murders, but it isn't the murders that I want to talk about. It has the social reaction. Largely women. Not all, but overwhelmingly women. Yes, this is about women's reaction to this. I have seen things in the past week that have shocked me. And I'm the guy who's been doing this show on Sunday nights for 5 years, growing up under a borderline narcissist mother with secondary psychopathic traits, as Jesse did. We are brother and sister. I've been doing a show about how personality disorders are the psychology that animate domestic abuse and animate child abuse, and that the things that went on in homes like mine are now structuring public discourse and the way we behave in public. It's gone feral. Domestic abuse has gone feral in public. Well, meet Fulton.
Hello, kitty.
I know. Well, you insisted on coming up. You insisted. Show everybody how wee you are. Wee and little.
He's so wee.
And also, I know. It's terrible. It's terrible when the humans pick you up after you jump on them. Also,
look at the
mittens, extra toes.
There it is. There, you see that? They're huge on these cats. These are not just any thumbs, guys. These are like the real.
They're real big. These cats have snowshoes. So this is a family affair. A friend of the show, Kathleen, my friend as well. I've gotten to know her and met her up in person a couple of times. She had a lovely black mama cat who had yet another litter, and we did a cat exchange a couple days ago in upstate New York, and I brought home Mama Kitty and 2 of the boy kittens. So I've got one of the boy kittens, and Jess has got Mama Kitty and the other boy kitten. Mm-hmm. So, are you going to jump on him, Mina?
Yeah.
Are you going to destroy him?
With your feminine wiles.
I know. She's not being very ladylike. Yeah.
She must be taking pointers from Twitter.
Or is that the new ladylike? Oh, yeah. I'm a little discombobulated. This past week, Well, let me set it up. I don't think there are probably very many of you who don't know about this case, but there may be a few. So, a woman named Lindsay Clancy is on trial for murder this week. I think this is week 2. It may be week 3. Maybe I'm wrong about that. She murdered her 3 children in 2023. They were 8 years old, 5 years old, and 8 months old. She has admitted this. This is not in controversy. We'll see a couple of, well, there are there's a pool of mostly young TikTok girls. I call them girls. They are actually chronological adults, but they're quite obviously children. They're little girls who are proposing that her innocent husband killed the children because, of course, it's not possible for women to be evil. But that's not the case. Lindsay admitted she did it. Her defense team in court stipulates that she killed the children. This is not in controversy. It's not a mystery. There's no angle here to solve.
No.
This woman sent her husband Patrick out to go pick up food from a restaurant, and a restaurant that they did not ordinarily patronize, that was farther from their house than their usual restaurant, and also had him do a stop at a drugstore on the way back to get medicine for the kids. It looks pretty clear to me that she did this to get him out of the house so that she could kill the children. And she took them downstairs into the basement in their nice little suburb of Duxbury, Massachusetts, and she took what are being called exercise bands and strangled each of her children in sequence until they were dead, making sure that each one saw that the other one was dying first. So, we're talking about a murder here. A murder did happen. 3 murders happened. Now, many of you remember the Susan Smith case in Texas. After that, many of you will remember the Andrea Yates case, where she drowned her 5 children. What you will not remember, and I want you to think back. I do. I want you to try to remember who you were and where you were 25, 30 years ago when you heard about these things. What you don't remember is a massive culture-wide outpouring of support and sympathy for the murdering mother. You don't remember that because it didn't happen. That's what's happened with Lindsay Clancy. This is 2026 now. If you're not on social media, God bless you. But no, this is not, it's just social media. Just social media doesn't work anymore. Social media has actual physical human people who live in the real world, like me. They're real people. They live in the real world. They're saying real words. It's not fake. And it's not just a few at all. It is not just a few. It is not a loud, well, perhaps it's a loud minority, but we can't know how much of a minority it is, because there are no polling agencies that are actually taking polls right now of the general public, not just social media users, asking them what they think about this case. So I can only make assumptions. But let me put it to you this way. I have muted, unfollowed hundreds of people. Now, I know you don't really know people on social media unless you've met them in person. But these are people who I have followed and who have followed me for years. And they're almost all women. And their reaction to Lindsay Clancy being charged with murder has been to talk about how it must have been her postpartum psychosis, which she did not have, was never diagnosed with, or must be her postpartum depression. She must have been failed by the system. We really need to talk about the struggles that mothers are going through so that we can prevent these tragedies. Yeah, really? Is that what we need to talk about? And yes, if you're in the audience right now and this is you, I am talking to you. Yes. Nobody's off the hook here. If I hear this from one of my real life friends, we're going to have a very candid discussion too.
Perhaps loud.
Yeah. I have never seen anything like this. I've seen a lot. I saw a lot in my home. I've been through the ringer over the past 10 years with female friends, no longer my friends, who have fallen for the society-wide narcissism that most women are displaying some traits of. And I'm not saying that, I'm not even saying half of women, I'm not even saying 50% of women have a fully diagnosable cluster B personality disorder, but I am saying that women generally, left, right, liberal, and conservative, have extraordinarily elevated levels of solipsistic self-regard all the way to narcissism that I have never seen in this volume before. This is a societal crisis. The fact that this topic, a woman who murdered her children, provoked women to go out by the countless thousands on social media and in network news coverage to talk about how she wasn't supported. And it was the drugs. They had her on so many drugs. Anything they can do to take moral culpability away from Lindsay Clancy, a murderer who I believe premeditatedly planned to kill her children, executed that plan. Oh, but she tried to kill herself. I don't think she did. I think she tried to make it look like she tried to kill herself. So what did she do? She made a desultory cut across her wrists, so far as I know, and then immediately jumped out the second-story window of her house. Second-story window. Now, what she didn't count on was that the ground was frozen, and so when she hit the ground, she did in fact snap her spine. She's now paralyzed from the waist down.
Aww.
Which only makes her more sympathetic because she gets to appear in a wheelchair wearing a cross around her neck, which she's been doing in court. This woman was a nurse. She was a labor and delivery nurse. She knew... Oh, I'm sorry. She also took a handful of pills, but not enough to kill herself.
Were they Tums?
Right. So what are people saying? Well, some of these women, I'm calling them the Clancy Girls. They're nothing but Manson girls. Remember the girl groupies for Charles Manson? That's exactly what this is. Exact same thing. Some of them are saying she didn't do it. It had to be her husband. We talked about it on the Sunday show this past week. If you haven't seen it, I think it's worth your time to watch. Others are saying that she was psychotic, meaning that she was disconnected from reality, and they believe her when she claims to have had what's called a command hallucination. That's when a voice tells you that you have to do something. I find it suspicious the way she described this alleged command hallucination, because she said in these words, a male voice told me to do it. What does that sound like to you? Well, what it sounds like to me is Lindsay Clancy, being a narcissist, knew that she could use that phrase and plant an emotional sympathy cue. You know, a man told me to do it. Because I want to kill my kids just being a woman, but a man told me to. Okay. Despite her defense of being in postpartum psychosis, which is awfully hard to credit considering that her youngest child was born 8 months ago, and despite what you are being told by some of the women who are extremely misled by this, that putting it generously, no, it is not true that postpartum psychosis can happen up to a year or 3 years after the birth. Does that make sense to you? Think it through. Just think it through on its own terms. Don't appeal to an authority. Don't go look it up. Just think it through with your own brain. Can you reasonably describe a psychotic episode that happens 1 year or 3 years after the birth of a child as postpartum? Well, of course, in plain grammatical reality, everything that happens after the birth is postpartum. My behavior is 52 years postpartum from my birth. Okay?
Yeah, I have a postpartum attitude today.
My God.
I'm sorry.
My
No,
God.
I just, that's the thing that really upsets me about this is the fact that they're saying that not only do the books say it can happen up to a year, uh, but all
I'm
of
sorry.
these
I'm simply not
crazies.
accepting that.
Yeah,
That's
no, I
bullshit.
mean,
On its face,
they've
it's
latched
bullshit.
onto that because the baby was 8 months old when she committed this act. But that's not how hormones work. That's not how this works. And it's specifically brought on by the shift in hormones. So, yeah, no, I'm just not buying it. Nope.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk a little bit later. Jess is gonna talk a little bit because she had postpartum depression, not psychosis. Remember that psychosis and psychopath are not the same thing. Psychosis only means disconnected from reality. It doesn't mean anything else. It doesn't mean anything else. Non-psychopaths can go psychotic. They do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This has nothing to do with psychopathy. Psychotic means disconnection from reality. Almost always a temporary state. Some intractable paranoid schizophrenics are in psychosis most of the time, but that's not usual. Even they have periods of lucidity. My belief is that Lindsay Clancy had a personality disorder. I think she was a narcissist with sociopathic traits. Well, let me just follow along. I want to show you proof that I'm not exaggerating the widespread social support for her coming from women. And I'm going to prime you guys. I want you to remember the Carmelo Anthony case. We've covered it a lot recently. You remember everything about that. Carmelo Anthony, the black teen who decided to stab white teen Austin Metcalf in the heart because Austin Metcalf dissed him by telling him to get out from under a tent that Carmelo was not entitled to be under. And you remember how black people across this country immediately said, that boy was railroaded. Dude, he was a baby. He was a baby. Got railroaded. That's racist. You remember how disgusting that was. You remember your disgust at the fact that his family, Carmelo Anthony's family, the convicted murderer, opened up a Give, Send, Go or a GoFundMe, an online fundraiser, and raised more than $500,000 right off the bat. And you remember how disgusted you were because you knew that the black people who were donating to this and the white, and it's impossible to know, I'm sure a bunch of white liberals donated too, they did this because they were happy. They were glad that he killed a white boy. I don't care what they said. They did this because they were happy that he killed a white boy. Vanishingly few of these people actually, they're not telling the truth. They didn't not believe that Carmelo did it. They thought he did do it. They're glad that he did it, and they thought he was justified. That's the truth. They approved of the murder. So I want you to remember that. It's not very long ago. And then I want you to take a look at this. This is I know it says Musgrove Family Fund up top. That's misleading. Some bitch on TikTok set this up saying it's for Lindsay's parents. It's for Lindsay's family. It's not. It's for her. Do you see the number on your screen? $929,978. Nearly $1 million in support for this woman who murdered her children. That's $400,000 more than my last check of the Carmelo Anthony fundraiser. The Lindsay Clancy case is women's Carmelo Anthony. It is the same thing. It is not more understandable. It is not more excusable. And if you haven't been paying attention to social media, I'll give you a sample of the kinds of things that women are doing, including mothers. There's a whole TikTok trend right now using the phrase "same Lindsay," meaning I feel the same as you did, Lindsay. Take a look. Let me stop this. Let me set this up for you. You're seeing a mother here on your screen holding her baby. She's playing footage from the trial where Lindsay Clancy's defense attorney is reading from Lindsay Clancy's diary in an effort to make her appear to have had a mental illness that she was failed, that providers failed her. So that's what you're hearing in the background.
Make something physically wrong with me. My mind never shuts off. It's constantly thinking of the next thing someone needs. I can't shut it off. I desperately want to go back to work, but now I don't know how I'm going to function, and it worries me. Wrote that, right? There were two pages that were blank that she didn't even write on, and then on the third entry, affirmations. She wrote affirmations. On November 22nd of 2022, I am calm. I will remain calm today. There is nothing that needs to be on my mind. The weight is lifted from my mind. I will sleep tonight.
Yeah, make sure you look at the camera, bitch. How do you like that? How do you like this one?
A big thing is I feel disconnected with myself. Time, reality. I think going back to work will help with that. She wrote that, right?
What? Do you have a sympathetic explanation that you can offer me that would persuade me, anyone in the audience, that this is not morally depraved indifference and pathological narcissism? I'm ready to read it. I don't think you can, but if you want to give it a try, please do give it a try in the comments. Women have no shame doing this in public. And this, I showed you too, this has been everywhere, 24 hours a day, wall to wall for a week. This and all sorts of other support for this woman. Here's another example. Justice for Lindsay. We stand with you, Lindsay. What is wrong with women? What is wrong with Western women? What is wrong with American women? If this seems less shocking to you, again, please try to remember who you were and who other people around you were 25 years ago at the turn of the century. Try to remember. You didn't see anything like this. And no. Don't say you just didn't see it because social media didn't exist. That is not true. You didn't not see it only because social media didn't exist. Bulletin boards existed on the internet. News sites existed. Commentary existed. You didn't see this. No one. If there were, of course, I'm sure, men and women who did sympathize with other maternal murderers, and we did hear from some of them, but they were a small minority. You paid a social price. You paid a reputational price in those days if you stand for maternal murder. I feel like I'm in the upside down. I feel like I have to re-explain. This is so disorienting to me. The best analogy I can think of is I'm feeling mentally the way you would feel physically in your body if you were walking along and all of a sudden the ground started to move under you in an undulation like an earthquake, and gravity started to come from directions you couldn't predict. Like all of a sudden up would be like this, and you'd be pulled to the side. That's what it feels like mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's talk about the claim that Lindsay was in postpartum psychosis. Remember that her last child, Callan, was born 8 months prior to the murder. They're claiming postpartum psychosis, disconnection from reality. Andrea Yates appears to me to have been a case of actual postpartum psychosis. That doesn't excuse what she did, but I believe that she was actually in active psychosis. She had no idea what reality was.
I actually
Disorganized
agree with
thinking.
you.
Yeah, right? Again, so, this does happen. Thankfully, that kind of postpartum psychosis is rare. It's not common. You don't know somebody who went through it, most of you. If you think you do, most of you don't. You've been told that by people who don't know what psychosis means, or who are even inadvertently mushing together postpartum depression and postpartum psychosis. They are not the same thing. They are not the same thing. You don't know a woman like this. Everybody's acting, everybody's saying, oh, I knew a woman who went through that. No, you didn't. No, you don't. And if you've been told that, it was very likely a mistake or a lie. So, there is no document. Lindsay Clancy, also, the narrative is that the system failed her. Her doctors failed her. Did you know they prescribed her 13 different psychoactive medications in a 4-month or a 6-month period? So she had a psychotic break by all these, induced by all these clashing psychotropic medications. That's the claim. Now, it is true that she was prescribed at least 13 different psychotropic medications, but she appears to have been doctor shopping. And this ought to alter your view, and I pray to God that it does once you hear this, if you're thinking that maybe drugs can explain this. This has all come out in court. She didn't take most of the medications. She took them for a couple days, and then she decided to stop. Then she switched to another one, took a few, 2 or 3 days worth, then she decided to stop. She was not on a cocktail of really powerful medications. That's not what actually happened. And she had a blood draw done after her arrest, of course. And the technician who, I don't remember the guy's actual particular, he was involved with this. He did the toxicology screen. And he reported in court that he did not find evidence of acute toxicity or extremely high levels of any of these psychiatric drugs in her system. It did not look like what he would expect to see doing a blood draw on somebody who had overdosed or who had a really good dose of all these medications in there. It just didn't happen. So this isn't true. If you've been told that, it's not true. In addition, she was seeing psychiatrists and medical doctors, one after another, in the time leading up to these murders in 2023. None of those practitioners documented any evidence of psychotic thinking in her. People in psychosis can present in different ways, but they are almost always very obviously in psychosis to any lay person. You don't need to be a doctor to see it. Many of you have talked to people in psychosis. You've had schizophrenic relatives who were in florid delusional territory. You've talked to the homeless guy on the street or the homeless lady on the street who tells you all about how a little munchkin lives inside her iPhone and has been spying on her while she goes to the bathroom. You've talked to your neighbor who has told you since 1969 that the Central Intelligence Agency actually lives inside his television set and is, putting bugs in his house. And not, it doesn't even have to be that stuff. They have an affect, a manner. You can see it. Their thinking is disorganized. Their eyes don't track correctly. They're not there. They're somewhere else. They're halfway in the room, but not there. Anybody can see this. None of her doctors noted any disorganized psychotic thinking in her.
And she was in a ward. She checked herself into a ward.
I don't remember the date, but there was one 5-day stint when she was in a psychiatric hospital.
3 weeks before she pulled this off, I think. I'm sorry, but it looks to me like she did that in order to have an out.
I think she was building her alibi for months.
Yes. And it seems like this is also very calculated, because if you're in a psych ward and you're psychotic, they're gonna fucking know.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm
So
sorry.
this doesn't track. And if you would like to hear this from somebody with actual professional experience in profiling, I recommend the YouTuber. She's a woman. Her name is Pat Brown. She calls herself Criminal Profiler Pat Brown. She is a professional criminal profiler and has been for decades. I've been listening to her this week. And a lot of the information that I'm giving you, I first heard from her and went and ran it down. And it appears that what Pat Brown is saying is correct. But give her take a try. She's been covering this case too. And she knows this professionally. I don't. In addition, Lindsay Clancy displayed no symptoms of disorganized psychotic thinking on the day that she murdered her children. The morning before it happened, she was out building snowmen with them. And the day that it happened again, I told you she sent her husband out on errands to pick up dinner and I think laxative medicine for the kids at CVS drugstore. And she did it in the interim time when he was out. And when he came home, he found her after she jumped out the second story window, lying on the ground, and she said the kids are in the basement. He goes in and finds them all strangled and dead. Now, the claim that, well, actually, let me stop. You guys have given some Rumble rants and some donations. Thank you. Let me read a couple of those. Fox So Cunning and Free. Thank you, legal friend. Says $5. We have forgotten a basic truth that Batman taught us in 2008. Some people just want to watch the world burn. They are just evil. That's it. CB75075, thank you, sir. $10. Men need to stop listening to these women's boos because we see who they root for. Sage501, $3. Decades of catastrophic levels of accommodation while simultaneously being raised in a rebellious victim fantasy. That's what's wrong with modern women. Thank you for those. Now, let's talk about the claim that the system failed Lindsay Clancy, that Lindsay Clancy was unsupported. There is no one in the world more supported than the American woman. Every single resource of the state, the mental health industry, and cultural messaging for decades has been geared towards supporting women. It is everywhere. You don't see it because you're like the fish in water. It's normal to you. The welfare system, the food stamp system, the special organizations to help single mothers, the scholarships for women and girls, the special women's health initiatives, the legislation that comes up in states across the country every year to improve health care and mental health support for women, girls, women in STEM, girls, girls sports, women, support. This is constant. It is a constant drumbeat. It never shuts up around the clock, and it has been this way since at least the 1990s. The fact is that we live in the richest country in the world with the most massive welfare state in the world. Lindsay Clancy and any American woman, are you feeling overwhelmed by your children? I'd like to know why, by the way. I'd like to know why. When you're not homeless, you got an iPhone. Even poor people in this country are not poor. Poor people in this country are literally morbidly obese. With iPhones and apartments and refrigerators and television sets and food stamps to fill their refrigerator and hot and cold running water.
So nice.
We live better than royalty did 150 years ago. The poorest among us have luxuries that the richest royalty in Europe could not purchase because they didn't exist 150 years ago. And if you are feeling overwhelmed by your children, you can walk out of the house. You can walk away and leave them with the father, if indeed there is a father. Most of the times there's not, but there was in this case. Lindsay Clancy could have walked out and abandoned her family. She didn't have to kill her children. You know what else she could have done? Do We overlook an extraordinary first in history luxury because we think it's normal. It's called 911. Do you know what a luxury that is? You can call 911, the emergency number, anytime, day or night, anywhere you are in this country, and get a police, medical, or fire response. That's extraordinary. She could have called 911 and said, I'm having thoughts of harming my children, and within 5 minutes, police cruisers would be there and an ambulance would be there. The children would be taken away from her. She would be taken in an ambulance for a psych evaluation. She could have walked away from all of her responsibilities. She wouldn't even have been prosecuted. She wouldn't even have been prosecuted. But she chose to kill her children because she wanted her children dead. That wasn't even the easiest choice she could make. She had to overcome the fact that killing your children is illegal. She could have walked away, but she did. Why didn't she walk away? If she was overwhelmed, why didn't she walk away? Why didn't she call 911?
You can even take your children to a hospital.
Yep.
It's a baby. They'll take children too. Drop-off point. No questions asked.
No prosecution.
You don't have to give a name. Nothing. You can give up your children right there. There's no reason to pretend that there aren't options set up for people who are really lost and can't do it. That it's just, even if you believe that's possible, which I don't, if you have to stop being a mother, or you shouldn't be a mom for whatever reason at the moment, you can do something about it.
You can.
Like, they have set up support systems. It's an amazing thing. And we all take it for so much granted that we're given the opportunity to take care of these kinds of things that never used to be able to be taken care of. They never had a simple solution. And now there's a solution. Even if it's a hard solution, the only reason Lindsay Clancy didn't do that is because she didn't want to be ashamed of herself. That's really it. That's the only reason.
This is my speculation, and it is speculation. I think it's informed speculation, and I think it has a good chance of being right, but I'm not going to put a confidence interval on it, and I won't defend it if it turns out that my speculation is wrong. I will admit that my speculation female narcissism and cluster B generally, as I do.
Oh, kitty.
Are we having a cat incursion?
But somehow he's managed to squeeze himself in between all my pores. I'm getting swiped at now while I read.
Maybe you should bring him down here and I'll get the exercise bands.
You're kidding before we have to euthanize you.
Yeah, we're going to go there. It's going to be that twisted and dark. Oh, he's such a sweetie. This is Patch, right? That's the name?
This is Patch because
Patch.
He's got this little white spot right here.
And it's the only way we can tell them apart. I took little Fulton is my kitten's name, and I took him upstairs to hang out with Jesse and the other cats last night because Kevin, the other half of Disaffected, was here installing some new equipment. Woohoo! Kevin's got a 90-pound chocolate lab named Vector, and I love this dog to death. He is a great, big, strong, handsome, goofy slobber bucket. And I love him, but that's really frightening to a tiny little kitty. And the only way we can tell these kittens apart is that white. Well, I think Patch is a little physically larger than Fulton is.
Yeah, he seems like longer.
He's longer. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, oh, you know what? I just saw somebody in the chat. If you're on Rumble, say hi to Queen of Biltong. And I'm going to do this right now because Queen of Biltong, I hope you hear me. Apologies to you and your husband, Anton. We somehow cut the commercial out of the show that came up. Biltong is our sponsor, BiltongUSA.com. We cheated you out of a commercial on last week's show, and I'm sorry about that. So I'm going to
We'll
tell
make
all
an
of
extra special good one this time.
We'll make an extra special good one, but I'm going to do it right now. You guys, seriously, I have it in my freezer. There's some in Jesse's freezer. Biltong, the thinly sliced, vinegar spice cured beef that comes from BiltongUSA.com, which is the business owned by Queen of Biltong and King of Biltong, her husband Anton, is wonderful stuff, and another box is on the way to me. They sponsor our show. It's delicious. It's really good for you. And if you want a snack that's not carbohydrates, that's not chips or something like that, check it out. I think you'll really like it. Go to BiltongUSA.com. And if you do order, use my promo code Josh. It'll get you 10% off. So again, Biltongland, we are sorry. Thank you very much.
We love.
Thank you for sticking with us. So at this point, these claims of mothers feeling unsupported really don't stack up in this society that we have. There are mothers have problems, families have problems right now. The biggest problem is lack of marriage in two-parent households.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're unsupported, well, Caitlin, maybe you shouldn't have been an empowered single mother. Did you think about that? No. It is not the case that most single mothers, the dads abandon them. This is a two-person transaction. This is a two-person transaction. And this idea that all single mothers were, quote, abandoned by deadbeat dads who walked out of that. Do you think this is 1954 in some Alabama holler where he goes out for cigarettes and just never came back, and she never got a driver's license because he didn't let her out the house, or whatever the fuck other fantasy you have about how oppressed women always were right up until 1963? Come on.
It does happen, though.
It does happen, but it's
But it's not the norm. It's not this.
Men and women have
fare.
equal responsibility for family formation. Both men and women are making horrendous, immoral choices that deprive children of a stable family. You want to feel supported in your motherhood? Get married to a good man. Be faithful to him. Don't henpeck him. Commit to staying in the marriage even if you're not completely turned on by each other. Just as hot as it was 10 years from now as it was on your wedding night. That is not the point of marriage. The initial point, the infatuation, the horniness, the not being able to get enough of each other in the early days, this is temporary. It's a bonding mechanism that bonds parents together. But you have to take the responsibility to stay committed to that relationship and stay together and raise your family, even when it doesn't give you tingles 15 years from now. We've all forgotten this stuff, you know?
I know.
Well, I fell out of love. I don't give a flying fuck. What does that have to do with your obligation to your children?
Yeah.
What does that have to do with anything?
I don't know.
All right, so let's get back to Lindsay Clancy. Let's talk about Lindsay Clancy specifically feeling unsupported and failed by the system. This bitch was a labor and delivery nurse at Massachusetts General Hospital, living in the suburb of Duxbury in a very nice, I believe it was 1,700 square foot house, with a solidly middle to upper middle class income. Her husband, Patrick, was a white collar worker who worked at home. He started working at home to better support her. So she's married, she's got a husband who works at home, they have enough money. Lindsay Clancy's family lived in the area too. They were involved in the child care. Mom and dad, grandma and grandpa. You know what else?
Grandma and grandpa right in the area? Are you
The two elder kids were in daycare a lot of the time.
Oh.
Hey, can I add one more? Guess what else she had? Fucking nanny. A fucking nanny.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. Go look it up. I realize this is a self-selecting audience. Most of the people who are coming here have already heard about this and have probably made their own conclusions. But for those of you, if you have been told the exact opposite of what I'm saying to you now, please do go behind me. Go check sources. There are some people out there who just believe whatever they hear, right? And we all do that to some degree with some things. But you may have been, I'm not even saying your friends have lied to you. Some of them may have. But there are people out there who probably they heard some surface narrative. Well, she wasn't supported, blah, 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 and they just assume it's true. But when you actually look into the evidence, none of this is true. This woman could not have been more supported. It just wouldn't be possible. She had the money, the family, the husband, the daycare workers, and the nanny. I mean, come on.
She had so many outlets to escape. There's no, I can't even for a second believe that she didn't.
But yet, these claims make sense to millions of American women. They are sympathetic to these claims. I want to know why. What is wrong with modern women? Something is very, very wrong with women specifically. Not a small minority, not just leftists, not just Democrats. I'm seeing conservative women say the same things. I'm seeing conservative men, smaller numbers, but I'm seeing right-wing commentators chastising people like me for saying that Lindsay Clancy is a murderous, psychopathic cunt. And Lindsay Clancy is a murderous, psychopathic cunt. But saying that is more awful than the reality of who Lindsay Clancy is, because she's a woman. Feminism has, I swear to God, the feminist indoctrination that has swamped everybody, man, woman, and child in this country since the 1960s, is a form of narcissistic abuse. It is exactly the same kind of narcissistic abuse that Jesse and I grew up with and our brother grew up with under our feminist mother, our cluster B mother. It is the same thing. Feminism is narcissism. It's not like it, it is it. And by feminism, I don't mean uncontroversial claims that we can all agree to, like women should have equal legal rights. That's not in question. That's not what feminism is. So when I say that word, that's not what I'm saying. Feminism is female supremacy. It is morally laundered female personality disordered narcissism that has been normalized. That's what it is. That anyone, let alone women in this country in the 2020s, could actually claim that women have it rough right now and mothers have it rough. I think what's going on, this thought is not original to me. Many other people have said it. But Americans generally, all of us, but especially women, we have been coddled and spoiled by this decadent society since the 1950s explosion of the economy and new consumer goods. Life became so luxurious in the 1950s and forward that many of us have not experienced anything you could call genuine adversity. A woman like Caroline Ingalls on the prairie, she struggled. That family struggled. They had to walk across the plains in a wagon, cut down trees, clear fields, build a house with their hands, milk the cows by hand, have the babies at home. That was real work. That was real struggle. That is lack of support. When the nearest civilization, the nearest farmhouse is a 20-mile walk, that is being unsupported and having to be on your own. No one in America has had that experience for 170 years. Let me take a look over the comments here and see what people are saying.
We just got one in Rumble.
Princess mentality. Lily of the Fox Valley, that's exactly right. They are princess. You know what this is? This is the Princess and the Pea. Remember the fairy tale of the Princess and the Pea. She sat on a pile, the princess in the story, I believe the number was 41 mattresses. She had a pile of 41 mattresses to insulate her from the tiny little bump of one little pea that sat at the bottom of that pile of mattresses. And no matter how many were added, she could still feel that pea. That's how sensitive Princess was. This is what's going on here. My struggles. What struggles? And I'll tell you something else. I think, and again, this is not original to me, but it makes sense to me. How did we get to a point where an appreciable large number of women are not at all ashamed or afraid of the consequences to their social reputation for supporting a woman who murders her children and saying that she's sympathetic? How did we get there?
I have no idea.
Oh, I think I know part of it. Part of it is the complete normalization and valorization of abortion. I think millions of these women have sublimated abortion guilt, and this is their way of making what, and I'm not even saying they sinned. What I'm saying is they feel they sinned. They feel guilty about their abortion. Many of them are remembering that they had an abortion of convenience. It wasn't to save their life. It wasn't because they were raped. That's a vanishing, it's less than 1% of abortions happen because of rape or incest. They're abortions of convenience. I think millions of women know in their heart that they did something that they themselves think is wrong, but they can't bring themselves to admit it, and so they have to make a psychopathic murderer okay. Because how much farther are we going to go, friends? I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that within 5 years, we will have a phrase that is considered a normal phrase that's used in polite company called post-birth abortion. And I think it is reasonably likely that it will be written into a state statute. Yes, I'm making the slippery slope argument. Don't make fun of it. We have already slid almost all the way down the slope on everything. Everything the Christians said was a slippery slope turned out to be that slippery slope. Yeah, I remember myself. I remember saying, you stupid, bigoted, conservative fundamentalists, you think that if we allow men to get married, then like people are going to marry their dogs and people are going to marry children. You're so stupid. Well, actually they weren't. I was so stupid.
And here we are.
And here we are. We've got polycules. We've got legalized surrogacy, where women can sign contracts to sell their babies to gay men who want narcissistic accessories.
Ugh.
We've got people arguing in public now that bestiality is a victimless crime. If you haven't seen it, go behind me. You'll see it. So yeah, the slope is slippery, and we are sliding down, and it is true.
I read somewhere.
I'm going to shut up for a while. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this stuff.
Yeah, no, Karen Stark was saying something about, oh, I wish I'd written it down.
I know, your comments fly by so fast. Thank you for interacting with us.
But yeah, God, it was what we were saying just a minute.
I'll scroll through and see if I can see it too.
It's pretty far up, so I feel bad. But it was a good point.
I'm almost getting there. Oh, I see the New York Citizen. Nancy, you're here. Hi, Nancy. Good to see you.
Oh, I remember.
Hi, Adam.
She was talking about how, or I think even Sage said that maybe it won't be long before women lose the ability to even be mothers, that it will become the state's job and all children will belong to the state. And
we're not far from that. We're not far from that at all.
Yeah, that's not that far down that slippery slope.
Fathers have been replaced by the state. Women marry the state now.
Yes, welfare, all of the system is literally built around single mothers. So now you're actually incentivized to be a single mother.
Yes. Now this struck the black community the worst and absolutely devastated the family structure in the black community, but whites are catching up now. It's really frightening. Let me read a few more of these. Sage 501, $3, thank you. Decades of catastrophic levels of accommodation while no, I'm sorry, I did already read that. Still a good
It's the
comment.
next one.
Mediocre witch, $10. Thank you, ma'am. Several generations of neo-Marxist feminist education whispering in their ears that children are oppressive. Yes. Motherhood is slavery, and women's needs, aka their wants, supersede everything. Also patriarchy. Yep. Another one from Mediocre Witch. Also, it makes the case, see, this is what women will be pushed to if you don't allow no-holds-barred abortion access for free. Yeah, exactly.
So grotesque.
Jess, I'm going to ask you to hold down the fort in a minute because I'm going to have to take a call of nature break, but I want to tell a quick story before I go. And I told this on Twitter today. If you ask me what my view of abortion is, I do not have a well-grounded justification. I am still in flux here, and it's my responsibility to get myself sorted out, but I realize that I'm not fully morally sorted out on this. I'm much more against abortion than I ever was before. I can't honestly say that I think or feel, and I'm not sure if it's thinking or feeling. That's a problem. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm not sure if a woman goes and gets an abortion at 6 weeks or 8 weeks. I can tell you that my gut doesn't ping to me that, this is a human being person. And I realize I may be factually and morally wrong on this. I'm just telling you my honest outlook here. It doesn't strike me morally as the same thing as getting an abortion at 6 months or 7 months or 8 months. But I can tell you that, I really don't like abortion. I can't yet bring myself to say that, for example, an 11-year-old girl who got, as has happened, got raped by her father and got pregnant, I can't sit here and tell you I think that girl should be made to go through the danger of giving birth to a child that was her father's and a product of incest. I can't go that far. I'm sorry, guys.
That's my line, too. That's about where I sit.
I can't do it. I know, and I know those of you who disagree with me, and you may be right. I know why you disagree, and you say, you can't kill the child to punish the sin of the adults. I do understand. I told you I'm not completely sorted out, but I'm anti-abortion at this point overall. As confused as I may be, the bloodthirstiness, the fact that it doesn't stop, the fact that it keeps going, the fact that Massachusetts just expanded a law that they put in place a couple years ago that makes it basically legal, not basically, it makes it legal to have an abortion up until the day of birth if your doctor determines that it is, quote, necessary for your physical or mental health. That's a loophole wide enough to drive 40 tractor trailers driven by illegal Somalians through. This is, and it was, and as Governor Maura Healey signed this, there's not half a dozen, like 15 women surrounding her, beaming and smiling and clapping. When the fuck, women, listen up, when the hell did your most important legal right that you have to campaign for is the right to fucking abort your child? When did that become more important to you than any other legal right you have?
Yep, I'm disgusted.
So, let me tell you the quick story. I paid for someone to get an abortion when I was 16 years old, and what I did was a sin. No, it was not my child. I was a waiter at a restaurant, and I had a co-worker who was 32 years old. She was a working mother. Her husband was serving in the Gulf War overseas. She had an affair and got pregnant. She already had 2 children. She didn't manage her money very well, and she came to me and hit me up for $200 to go to Planned Parenthood and take care of the problem, and I gave it to her, and I thought I was doing something good. I was not. I did something evil. I sinned and aided and abetted a worse sin. But what did I think about it? What was my moral reasoning? Well, I wanted to protect her from the consequences of her adultery. I didn't want her husband to find out. I didn't want their family to break up because blah, 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 blah. What I did was wrong. It was wrong. What she did was much more wrong, but what I did was wrong. I can't take it back. I wish I hadn't done it, but I did do it. And obviously I can't know I am not a woman. I'm not capable of getting pregnant. I can't subjectively experience what would be going through my heart and mind if I were and I had an abortion. I understand that. But it seems to me that we have made it impossible in the society to even suggest indirectly that abortion may not be a good thing or that it was not a moral choice. Women go hysterical. You know they do. You even lightly suggest this, and they start screaming at you. They call you a bigot. They call you a misogynist. They say you don't care about women. They go absolutely bugfuck hysterical. Well, what about the women out there who are having second thoughts and who say, I shouldn't have done that? What about the women who want to say to other women, you don't understand the guilt feelings that will come back to haunt you later. You have to acknowledge what you did. I know there are many women out there who I know who would like to get that message across because they went through this themselves before they changed their mind. We don't have any public conversational space for this. So it just gets more extreme. What do you think, Jess?
I'm disgusted by the law that Massachusetts enacted. I agree. There's absolutely no reason. Not one. I can't think of a single reason a child should be aborted in the third trimester at all. Even if there's risk to the mother's life, the baby can be delivered. I don't feel that there's any reason for that law. I think that we're entirely set up to accommodate for abortion to not even be needed at that point.
Yeah, who was... somebody's got a comment here I want to read. I'm sorry as I look for it.
I like one Ryan Kelly 369 on YouTube just said, if someone feels absolutely destitute and has no other option than abortion, I have failed them morally for my inability to convince them otherwise.
Oh, LMP69, hi, thanks for being here again this week. She says, I often wonder when adoption became more reprehensible than abortion. That's a very good question. Why do we never talk about adoption anymore?
I don't know.
Why is introducing adoption as an alternative to abortion, why is that met with screaming rage? And it is met with screaming rage. Why? Does anyone have insight into that? I mean, I think I know. I think narcissism is beneath all of this. But I would really like us to grapple with this. I'd like us to have a public adult conversation about this. When you say to abortion advocates, women, that adoption is an option, they get angry as hell. Why? Why does that make them angry? Yeah, Ryan Kelly says, screaming rage, scorn and shame, adoption, how dare you? Yeah, that is the reaction. Why is that the reaction?
Do you see what Grammar I just said? For those unaware, a late-term abortion takes 2 to 4 days. It is never used for emergency management.
Jesus. And a late-term abortion, I don't know exactly what the legal definition of that is, but let's say it's the 8th month or the 9th month. How is that not just straight murder when you could deliver the baby? How is that not murder? And don't it's no use saying things like that almost never happens. Almost never is not good enough. And it doesn't cure the problem that states like Massachusetts now have a law. It's not restricted to only in cases where it's almost certain that the mother will die if the baby doesn't come out of her. It's not restricted to that. It's just if your physician determines that it's necessary for your physical and mental health. There's no limit there. Why is this so necessary to have? Can you hold it down for a minute while I take my quick break, Jess?
I can try.
You can read some comments out?
Yeah,
okay. Be right back, guys. Thank you. We don't have the magic of editing for the Sunday show so that you don't have to see what I'm actually like. I have to go to the bathroom all the time.
All the time. Hamster bladder. Because, oh yes, I'm reading from you guys. I'm seeing some good stuff in the YouTube go by. LMP69. She says, I saw a post from the doctor that said there's no medical reason for a late trimester abortion. The fact that Grammari has said it's never used for emergency management would, I mean, it directly says that there is no emergency at the end of your term that would be needed to abort a child. For example, you have, let's say maybe you have elevated blood pressure. I forget what it's called, but it's pretty common in women who in late pregnancy where they get hypertension and they have to be delivering. They have to, or the mother will lose their life. But they never say we have to abort the baby, or if it takes 2 to 4 days, there's no way to save a mother in that kind of crisis anyway. So the only and fastest option for an emergency would be delivery. So none of it makes any sense. Preeclampsia, that's what it's called. Yep. Thanks, guys. So, I mean, even in extreme cases like that, like preeclampsia, which puts both the mother and the child at risk, there is no safer option but delivery. So it just doesn't make any sense. It's legal, but it's legal for something that doesn't actually exist. So now they're going to find things that exist.
I want to take a minute and ask you guys to do me a favor. I know this is the part of podcasts that everybody hates, but there's a reason why podcasters do it. If you are watching us on YouTube or on Rumble, I'm going to ask you, please make sure you've subscribed to our channel. And if you're on YouTube, subscribing is not enough. It's 2 steps. I'm sorry to ask you to take 2 steps, but you don't even have to leave your phone. You can just tap with your finger. You don't even have to walk. Subscribe, but also hit the notification bell. Hit the notification bell and choose all notifications. Do not choose personalized. That means that YouTube will decide opaquely to you when they will alert you that we've got something new and when they won't. So please, please, please subscribe. We need the numbers because it helps in the algorithm. Our show last week that was 2 topics. The Jason Arday case is, Jason Arday at Cambridge University killed himself recently, and the second half of it was about Lindsay Clancy as well. Last week, or no, oh God, I'm getting my shows mixed up. No, the Jason Arday was the one. It got 5 to 6 times the number of views that we get on average on YouTube. It was by far the hottest show we've done, even though the numbers are small in absolute terms. It was quite big for us. But then this week, the show is struggling for numbers again. And I think that's because our last one, which was about Jason Arday's suicide, we chose the title, Fuck You. So we knew what was, we took a chance. Maybe that'll bring people in. They'll be so shocked that they'll come in. But what happened was that YouTube put an 18+ restriction on it. And we're not trying to pipe this out to kids. I understand that. But the result of that is that it doesn't show up in your algorithm even if you are subscribed to us. It's not promoted to you and you don't get a notification. They disfavor these things. So please, please, and if you're on Rumble, subscribe and hit like. Help us get the word out and get more people in. Thank you very much.
Comments also really help if you leave comments.
Yeah, leaving comments does help. Doesn't matter what they are, just their existence
even
helps.
If it's hate comments. We'll
leave a hate comment. Ryan Kelly, never figured Josh for the clickbait type. But apparently he's not above it once in a while. A man has to eat, buddy. This is part of how I make my living. I can't get a regular job. I'm canceled. I'm too toxic. This is gay men. Also, if you guys didn't know, gay men
Like, all men are misogynists, but gay men are the worst misogynists. They fucking hate women. The only reason that they don't sleep with women is because they hate them. It's like, they lie. They say, like, I know, like they say that, like, they're not attracted to women and, you know, like, they really like the cock, but it's not that. It's because they hate them. They don't sleep with us because they hate us. They're the worst misogynists.
I want to go into this because I know you're going to have some personal experience to share about this, Jess. And I'm going to go off a couple of things I wrote for Substack and Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that has made me furious and disgusted is this same set of women who's sympathizing with Lindsay Clancy, if they're not doing that directly or trying to directly excuse her, they've decided that it's time to frame drag the conversation. They've decided to make the conversation about mothers' postpartum struggles that they can finally talk about openly. And they're using the murder trial of a woman who strangled her 3 children as a means to shift the topic of conversation away from women doing evil and killing their children onto, I struggled so much postpartum. So many women have become so baseline narcissistic, just at baseline, not even personality disordered women. A lot of these women that I'm talking about, if you plucked them up out of this insane context they're living in, would be horrified. They're not bad people at heart. But women are extraordinarily vulnerable to conformity and what other women are doing. And they're being swept along. They are allowing themselves to be swept along. They have become so narcissistic at baseline that they actually don't understand why people like me are furious at them, that they are using the Lindsay Clancy case to talk about what they call their postpartum struggles. They literally can't see it. They don't understand. They're very angry. They think they're being done wrong. They really do think they're being done wrong. So what they're doing, I call it frame dragging about the Lindsay Clancy case. Frame dragging is when people start deliberately pulling away from the original topic in order to refocus the conversation on something in their own personal interests.
Mm-hmm.
So by shifting away from the original topic, and the topic here is a mother who murdered her children, women can refocus the conversation on their own selfish interests. This makes sure, A, that we stop talking about the fact that this woman murdered her children in cold blood. B, we feel that we have to indulge women's solipsistic focus on what they call their struggles. And C, this makes sure that we never get to have a fulsome conversation about holding women accountable for abusive or murderous actions. That's why they do it. Because they don't care. They actually don't care about the children. They don't give a flying fuck about what happened to Lindsay Clancy's children or any of the other children who are in danger from violent mothers. Of all the murder, do you know this, you guys? This is statistical reality. Half of all murders of children are done by the mother. Fathers do half, mothers do half.
Welcome to reality.
I'll bet some of you did not know that. How would you know it? You'd think a mother never killed her children.
And
So
you
this
can
is-
look at any other violent crime, and men will always outrank women in it. But not that one. Not that one.
Nope.
So, why is that?
Well, so let's continue with frame dragging. That's what's been done all week about this conversation being moved into postpartum depression. And then the women say, you know, I've lost my temper repeatedly on Twitter this week. I absolutely have. I don't really think I care, though. I'm not going to apologize for it. And I've lost dozens, at least dozens, of longtime mutuals. I know you don't ever really know anybody on social media, but I have muted and blocked women that I have spoken to cordially and had a great time sharing things with for years on Twitter because they're doing this. I want nothing to do with them. Because now I know who they are. I didn't know before, but I know now. That kind of woman gets angry when men like me say, stop talking about your fucking struggles. That's not the point here. They say, the discourse has shifted. Why can't you acknowledge women's struggles? Do you see how this works? It is manipulative, which is women's specialty. They have managed to take a case of an evil witch of a mother who murdered her 3 kids and turn the conversation around to pregnant women's struggles, mothers' struggles. It's fucking disgusting. And so many people don't see it. So many of these women don't see it. They really don't. They're not all just narcissistic to their core. They literally, their minds are addled. They cannot see what's wrong with this morally. And then, too many men, including conservative men, Matt Walsh is one of the rare exceptions, and he's taken all the heat for it this week because he will have none of this country. The conservative men come in and say, oh, I know postpartum depression is real. I'm so sorry for your struggles. They do all the disclaimers, and I know it's real, and I know women hurt. I mean, this is just giving them more narcissistic supply. Try this. If you're having a hard time understanding why men like me are not only displeased by this, but that think, I think you have horrible moral character if that's your approach to this. If you really think this is now the time to share about women's postpartum struggles, I do think that you are fundamentally narcissistic, and I don't like you. I mean it. Try this. Imagine how you would have reacted, woman or man who agrees with them. Remember Chris Watts, the family annihilator from a couple of years ago? Killed his whole family? Don't start with me, well, Lindsay Clancy didn't kill her husband. No, that's a distinction without a difference. Stop it. You remember Chris Watts killing his entire family and pretending that he didn't. Imagine how you would have reacted as a woman if men across the internet had started a conversation about the intense pressure that fathers are under to be perfect providers in response to the Chris Watts family annihilation. How would you feel about that? Imagine if men flooded social media with heart emojis. Imagine them having a tagline that said, same Chris, same Chris. Think about it. Really think about it. Imagine if you saw men holding their children up on camera on TikTok and displaying rage and anger so that other people could see what it's like for fathers and empathize with us. How would you have reacted to that in the wake of the Chris Watts murders? Imagine if men reenacted stuffing themselves into a fuel oil tank, which is what Chris Watts did with the bodies, just to prove that Chris Watts could not have dumped the bodies there. Imagine them putting that on TikTok. What am I talking about? I'm talking about young women who are filming themselves bodily hanging out of their second-story windows to prove that Lindsay couldn't have done this. Yes! Go look! I know it's absurd because men don't do these things, but imagine if they did. Imagine if you had seen all of this in the wake of the Chris Watts case and you correctly pointed out to these men that Chris Watts murdered his entire family. Imagine you said, this is really disturbing. This is not the time to be dragging attention onto yourself and your fatherhood problems. It's not the time to be showing solidarity and sympathy for a family annihilator, a murderer. And then imagine that these men collectively screamed at you that you were a misandrist, that you just hated men, and that your horrible bigotry was standing in the way of preventing men from killing their children because we can't have a conversation. This is what women have been doing all week. I can't count the number of borderline type women who've said to me, you're going to be responsible when this happens again because you won't even let us talk about what leads to these horrible things. Fuck you. Fuck you, bitch. You know what leads to these horrible things? Being evil. Being Lindsay Clancy. Being a psychopath. Having a personality disorder and no moral conscience. Nobody failed Lindsay Clancy. Nobody didn't support Lindsay Clancy. Lindsay Clancy, feminists, women are full-grown That sisters do it for themselves, right? You have full agency. You're a full adult. You have full legal rights, but not full legal responsibilities. I've seen conservative women who say they're not feminists making these exact excuses. That's what women have been doing this week.
Before you read it in the comments, I have an interesting comment. I put a warning on it. Miss Math Chic, Josh, I generally agree with most of your points of view. In this case, you're off base assuming that Clancy has a personality disorder when there is absolutely no evidence of this.
Well, you can disagree with me all you like, but there is in fact quite a bit of evidence for it.
Quite a bit of evidence. And it's more so that we're concerned about all the women that have cluster B sitting there defending Clancy. But yeah.
Miss Math Cheek, you're very, very certain about this. I know you think I'm very certain too, but you are so certain about this that you capitalized the word no. You said there's absolutely no evidence of this. Really?
Really?
Justify yourself. Explain it. I'll read your comment. Tell me why there's absolutely capital no evidence.
No evidence?
Of a personality? None at all? We can disagree, but I don't even know how to respond to that.
But you've been getting it left, right, and center. We've had a couple people come in and go, and there's no. Oh, I'm like, really?
No evidence at all.
Really?
Murder isn't even a light indicator, huh? Not even a light one.
Grammar Eye brought up a good point. She said, anyone else wondering why no one has asked if Clancy had an affair? It's always the first question when a man does it. I wonder.
I don't know.
Maybe they should do a DNA test on that most recent baby.
Well, there have been rumors floating around about Patrick Clancy having an affair, and he may well have done that. I don't know. I have not looked into it enough to know the details about that, so I don't know if that's merely rumor or if there's some evidence for that. But even if he were having an affair, what does that have to do with... And if any of you are going to tell me she was so upset by that she had to kill her children,
God.
I don't know why you're listening to my stream.
Yeah, like you shouldn't even.
I don't think this is the show for you.
Help. No offense, but we don't need you.
I mean,
it's really ridiculous. This is all part of the whole feminize everything. No bullying. Be kind. Don't judge. Screw that. We're gonna judge you. We're gonna use judgment to weigh whether or not something is right or wrong. And we're going to judge whether or not your behavior is right or wrong. And morally speaking, I'm sorry, but I'm seeing nothing but disgusting, grotesque self-favoritism.
Yeah.
And I'm not happy with what I'm seeing at all. And if this is the acceptable way that people are approaching these kinds of topics, we have a lot to learn. There's some really serious problems with the social fabric we're in right now. And if you don't see that, then you're not using judgment. You don't have any.
Yeah, so what's my evidence that I think she has a personality disorder? This is a reasonable question if you genuinely don't see it. I admit I'm stumped on this one. I'm not doing this for dramatic effect, and I'm not doing it to be a dick. I'm literally stumped at anyone who could say that the murder of 3 children isn't evidence at all that even suggests looking into a personality disorder. That I'm stymied. I've got no answer for that because I literally can't mentally parse it. It doesn't make any sense to me. That's evidence in and of itself. No, not all people who commit murder are personality disordered. Of course not. But, yes, is it a leading indicator? Yeah, it is.
Let's also point out some things. Let's go to some facts.
Here's what it looks like to me. And again, this is speculation, but I don't think it's off base. It's not absurd. It may turn out to be wrong, but it is not absurd given what facts we have access to. it looks to me like Lindsay Clancy knew what she was doing. I believe that this was premeditated. I don't believe it was just premeditated that morning. I think she wanted to do this for a while. And I think that she tried to lay an alibi paper trail. Yes, I think there's a good possibility she was that cunning. That she doctor shopped and she let dribs and drabs get out. I'm having thoughts about harming the kids. I don't think she wanted to be stopped. I think she wanted to send an alibi. She wanted to set up an alibi.
Mm-hmm.
I think she absolutely sent her husband Patrick out of the house for long enough on a trip that was long enough. Do you know that, by the way? This came out in court. She mapped out on her computer the distance and the time it would take to get to each of these things. Now, that by itself, no, of course, that's not necessarily evidence. She might have said, how long is it going to take my husband to get there and back? That there could be an innocent explanation, but it certainly could also be evidence that she was making sure he was out of the house long enough to do this. I don't think she really intended to kill herself either. I think she intended to make it look like she did. I don't think she was counting on being paralyzed. I think she miscalculated there. But I think she did this to make herself look innocent and sympathetic. And what do I think? I think Lindsay Clancy was a very typical New England, narcissistic, middle-class, liberal, white woman. I think she was full of herself. I think she was a bitch nurse, like so many of them are. Because
probably drug addicted and or a drinker, because so many of them are.
I don't know if there's any evidence for that, but I think that she wanted to have a picture perfect, Facebook perfect, TikTok perfect, Instagram perfect life. And the reality of actually having to care for these 3 children was much heavier than she was anticipating that it would be, that she was forced her to confront with reality. And I think the presence of her children probably made her feel as if she were being deprived of the attention that should be focused on Lindsay. This is my speculation. She looks like a case of narcissistic personality disorder descending into psychopathy. That's what I think. I can't know if I'm right about that, but saying that, even if my speculation turns out to be wrong, that is not an insane speculation to make. It's not unevidenced. So, I mean, I guess that's the best I can say about that.
You're more measured than I am.
And if not that, then what? Because we've already dispensed with the other excuses. She was not in postpartum psychosis. That's not a fact. That's false. Even if she were in postpartum depression,
it's not enough.
It's not enough to explain this, right? Now, I've never experienced postpartum depression, obviously. But I have experienced profound depression. The most recent one for 3 solid months on end, where every single day I wanted to die. I'm not a suicide risk. That's one thing that you don't have to worry about with me. I'm not going to kill myself. I may think about it, but I haven't made a plan, and I certainly have never threatened suicide. I have never said to any of my family members, I'm going to kill myself if I don't get... I've not even said I'm going to kill myself if I don't get help. Have I ever said that, Jessie?
No.
So I'm not a suicide risk. But I do know what it's like to wake up every day and pray to God that you die in your sleep. Please let me die. Please let me die.
Have I ever done that?
No, you've never done that.
That's right.
Our mother has done that.
Our
You
mother
haven't
has
done that.
I've never done that.
So I'm a human. I don't have to be a mother who experienced postpartum depression to know the depths of despair that depression can get you into. I've suffered very badly. No worse than anyone else who's suffered it. I'm not worse, but I felt it as badly. And I didn't kill anybody. I didn't kill myself. I didn't kill anybody else. So she's not in postpartum psychosis. Postpartum depression is not enough to explain this. No, she did not have a psychotic break from drugs. The facts show that that's not the case. So if all of these other things aren't true, then how is it unreasonable to say this looks like a personality disorder to me? I mean, if you can see a way out of it, walk me through it.
You can't say, okay, so like postpartum psychosis, if you're in the camp of people who believes that that's what she was suffering from, I'm not. I don't believe that for a second. But if you are, that would automatically make her more prone to other diagnoses. She had a comorbid diagnosis of bipolar.
I think she was trying to get that diagnosis, but I don't believe she actually was awarded that diagnosis.
No, she was.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll have to
It was
check.
right
Okay.
in the article
All
that
right.
I read. So I think she did have that diagnosis, bipolar 1. So rapid, or not the rapid kind, right, but the standard fare. Or schizophrenia is the other thing that's common in families, in the genetic tree of women who suffer from postpartum psychosis. So you're more likely to have these problems in your family, or at least in your, if not in yourself, in your family tree. Then how can you sit there and say that a personality disorder isn't like sort of a de facto kind of problem that goes along with these, a comorbid,
And even if that's the case, it is still not a moral excuse for murder. Yeah. I don't. When stop, everybody, stop for a second. When did depression or postpartum depression become a moral excuse for murder? You didn't think that 25 years ago. None of you thought this 25 years ago. So if you think it now, why do you? A comment here from Madonna Lita 1 saying, no, Josh, it's not the same. I don't know what you're responding to for sure, but I suspect that you're telling me, no, your depression is not the same as postpartum. If you are saying that, number one, I didn't say that it was the same. So you're coming at me, you're correcting me for something I didn't make an error on. Number two, so what, it's not the same? I think what you mean to say, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'll believe you, maybe I won't, because you leave a lot of comments like this. I think what you mean to say is, no, I can't understand it, and this kind of suffering is something that only a woman can understand, and I don't really understand it. If that's what you're saying, that's nonsense. That's just, we're bigger victims. Sorry. Mediocre Witch, $5, says, how many of them are true crime junkies who are so into keeping the spotlight on the victims and are now ignoring the actual victims and crying? But what about Lindsay's struggles? Yeah, thank you. That's a lot of them. That's a lot of them. I saw a meme going around. I didn't clip it, so I can't show it to you, but it's a picture of Shiloh Hendricks. You remember Shiloh Hendricks, the white woman who was convicted of disorderly conduct for using the word nigger when she was being harassed and stolen from in a Minnesota park last year. She just got convicted by a jury. So it's a picture of Shiloh Hendricks and then a picture of Lindsay Clancy, both of them in a courtroom. And the meme said something like, all these women wanted her in prison for saying the word nigger. And then they go over to Lindsay Clancy. They want her sprung after she killed her kids. That's absolutely right. And somebody else said, if Lindsay Clancy had strangled 3 puppies, all of these women would be calling for the electric chair for her. And that is also right, because we have more sympathy for puppy litters than we do for actual human children. Because you know what? A lot of American women don't like children. They have been brainwashed into seeing their children as burdens. They're an awful lot more like my mother than women ever were when I was a child. It is amazing to me how separated so many women have been. They've been pushed into feeling emotionally separated from a moral obligation to their children, that animals evoke more sympathy for them than babies do. That really...
I mean, you can use the example of all of the articles in the last, since COVID, that puppies and pets have taken the place in Gen Z of children. They treat their animals like children.
Yeah. Madonna Lita did clarify, I've had depression since I was 14 and had PPD after my first child. In my own experience, they're very different. I believe you. Mm-hmm. But forgive me, you didn't have anything to correct me on. You said, no, they're not the same. I didn't say they were the same. I think you didn't like what I said, so you pretended that I tried to make them equivalent. I didn't. They don't have to be the same. I don't believe that one has to be a woman having specifically postpartum depression to have some empathetic connection to what the depths of despair and wanting to die feels like. I don't believe that. I think you as a woman can understand what I felt, and I think I can empathetically understand the depth of despair that you felt, even if the very specific subjective experience of it being postpartum is not something I can share. I don't think this is controversial. I didn't say they were the same. But I'm not going to privilege your postpartum depression. If that's what you want, you're not going to have it privileged. Sorry. Jesse, you had some postpartum depression, I believe.
Yeah.
You can talk about this with actual experience. Are you willing to?
Yeah. My situation was pretty extreme. Not only I had postpartum depression real bad. I was worried I was going to lose touch with reality. But I didn't. And the entire time I knew that I wasn't going to be able to bond with my child in the way that I wanted to. We couldn't bond. I couldn't bond with my own child. I couldn't breastfeed her, nothing. And the situation I was in was pretty horrendous. So my depression wasn't a surprise to me. The part that was really hard was not knowing whether or not I was going to be able to deal with my child. Because it wasn't like I didn't want her to be okay. I was depressed and I felt bad, and I didn't want to be in the position I was in, being her mother. But I didn't want for her to be suffering as a result of that. So it's really confusing to me to understand. It's really confusing to understand infanticide, because even at my worst, when I knew that I couldn't be a mother to my daughter when I was 18 years old, freshly 18, thank you, I had gotten pregnant as a result of a rape, and I was in a situation with a very abusive man who, threw me down a flight of stairs when I was 8 months pregnant. I was afraid of him, I was afraid of my life, and I was afraid of what was going to happen, and I knew that I wasn't cut out to be a solo mom at 18, and I hadn't even been at home since I was 13. It was a really horrible situation, but I made plans like Lindsay Clancy did. But they weren't to kill my children. They were to get my child away from me, to have her adopted. My mother stood in the way of that and talked me into letting her raise my daughter. Which at the time I was thankful for, because I hadn't really accepted the evil that is my mother.
Yeah, I know. Neither had I.
Yeah, I was thankful to get the help. I told her because either I knew she could help me figure out how to get it done, because I didn't know how to do it, or that she would have some other plan, some other idea of how I could do this, because I didn't want to leave my daughter with her father, who was a psycho, literally. So, I mean, the plans that I made were sticking away every bit of money I could have, packing extra diaper bags in case I had to go and run. I couldn't think of anything else, but it wasn't that, none of it was, how can I hurt, trying to hurt my kid. It was trying to separate myself from her in case that was how I ended up feeling about her, because I knew that we weren't connected and I didn't want to be her mother. And that's a really horrible and shameful thing that I've had to admit in my life. It's not something most moms can admit, and I'm not trying to give myself a pat on the back for it.
I know you're not.
It feels terrible, like even saying it. And if my daughter sees this, I want her to know that I do love her. And I respect her life. And I wanted to protect her life then as much as I still do now, even though weren't great. I didn't want to abort her. I remember a time in her life when she said to me, "You should have just aborted me." I didn't think I was going to wind up depressed or out of touch, unable to deal. But I'm glad I had help when I did, because she deserved to be here. She deserved a chance that I couldn't give her. And those are the kinds of things that just, I gotta wonder when I think about someone like Lindsay Clancy. Of course I was ashamed. I was ashamed that I couldn't do it. Even at 18, even given my circumstances, I felt so ashamed that I was going to have to admit to somebody that I couldn't do this. But that shame didn't stop me. And from what I can tell, the only time shame stops somebody from doing the right thing is when they're narcissistic. And shame is the all-consuming end-all and be-all of who they are underneath the surface. And that's why, to me, there's plenty of evidence that Lindsay Clancy is a narcissist who values herself far above her children, enough that if something shameful was crossing her mind and she was writing it down, if that's the truth, she was putting it in her journal and saying how disorganized she felt. There's just no reason to deflect your own shame, no matter how bad it is. So, to any mother out there who's suffered from postpartum depression, your sympathy from me, I'm so sorry. God, it sucks. It's the worst. But it is not murderous. And you know that. And you can be stronger, and you can be braver, and you can be the kind of person that stands up to the kind of people that say that this is normal behavior for a woman in postpartum depression. We all know it's not, because the baby blues are real common with hormones, and you can't sit here and tell me that murder is an answer for that. It's not.
For anyone who's watching or listening, I was around for some of this when it was happening years ago, and Jesse's telling the truth. Maybe you don't need that, but Jess, I always feel like I need somebody who was around to tell other people I wasn't lying about it too. So that's why I'm saying that. And it was a
horrible time in my life.
It was awful. It was awful. And looking back, the thing that makes it, for me anyway, more difficult and more painful is how much I didn't understand what was really going on. And you didn't either. Neither of us had come anywhere close to recognizing who our mother really was. And I thought it was a good idea for my mother to raise your child as well. And I am so sorry for what I contributed to firming up that idea. I mean, it probably would have happened anyway, but...
she lied about me, the results of which, it was horrible, because not only did I have to do that, but then I had to endure the fact that my mother went into family court and told them that my baby was dirty and wasn't bathed, and like all these things that weren't true about me at all. And I had no say in it, because I had already conceded that I wanted my mother to take care of her and keep her away from the father, who was dangerous. And it was a whole rigmarole. I had to go through months of court in order to keep her who kidnapped her, by the way. Her father kidnapped her over Christmas.
And I was there for it.
Wouldn't give her back, and then called the sheriff on the day she was supposed to come home. She never arrived home, so I convinced him to let me see her for Christmas. Brought my brothers so they could see the baby too.
We tried to get her back, but
we all planned to try and get her back.
I couldn't push very hard, because I was afraid if I pushed harder that he would hurt the baby or kill
Hurt
her.
the baby because he took the baby from me. He was holding her, and she was not safe,
Nope.
not safe,
And
so
then 4 or
it was
5 years
horrible.
later, after our mother got custody of my niece, or was it 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, when she was still a small child, our mother abandoned her.
She was 5.
She was 5.
Yep.
Our mother got on a plane to London to shack up with an alcoholic poet she met on Facebook. She left her husband. She left the child who was functionally her daughter that she had custody over. She just walked.
Bye. And I took her back. You know, and she
And
wanted
you
to
paid
go.
for her to come back to the United
I paid
States.
for her to come back. I convinced her to come back. I repaired the relationship between the flying monkey stepfather and my mother and made it so that he took her back. I did everything she could have wanted. By the way, Bonnie, I saved every one of those chats. Still have them. Nothing you say is undone.
You
So-
you know, would you say, because looking from, I mean, not looking from the outside, I was there for a lot of this, not all of it, but for a lot of it. Would you say that your depression, could it truly be called postpartum? I know it happened postpartum, but the circumstances of
I
your
don't
life
know.
were tragic.
I was depressed
and
beforehand.
like anybody, whether you had a kid or
the
not,
thing
I
that
mean,
was different. The thing that was there was
you know,
something.
your life was a nightmare.
It was a nightmare. I was already.
You had literal psychopaths. You had our mother and the father of your child to deal with.
Yes, and it was an impossible situation. It really, really, really was an impossible situation. For example, I was 17 years old, pregnant, and he took me across the country to be a drug mule, and I was his cover. He put a cross on me and flowery dresses while I was pregnant, so that if we ever got pulled over and searched, I could be the cover. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was 8 months pregnant. I got food poisoning because he didn't feed me, and then he bought me expired food because it was cheap. I was in the hospital, and Talia was affected by and they had to save me to save her. But the thing that was different after she was born versus how depressed I was beforehand was that I didn't feel like I had a full grasp on reality. I felt like time had vanished and I couldn't sort what I was going to do so much that I couldn't organize my own thoughts. I felt pretty disorganized, but not so much that I couldn't put together like a step A, step B, how am I going to get any of this done so I can get away from her father while also protecting her.
Yeah.
But I had to leave most of the work of caring for her to him, which made me really sick to myself. Like, it made me sick that was happening because I wasn't able to get out of bed. I was so depressed. I couldn't do anything right. I couldn't breastfeed her. I felt like a failure. And he criticized me, and I stopped eating, you know, everything. So it was just one of those situations where it was different, I think, because of the hormones, but it was just already there, and it got worse and worse.
Yeah.
So
I don't think anyone in your position could have gotten through that state. Nobody could have gotten through that without feeling enormous suffering and depression and panic and disorientation. I mean, you know, and these things happen. They you know, you're not. They happen, but this doesn't look this doesn't look anything like what is being presented in the Lindsay Clancy case. And again, it's not like I. It's not even Lindsay Clancy. It's not the fact. Of course, the murders are upsetting, as any murders of children are. But I'm far more upset at society. Mainly women, but a not inconsiderable number of men enabling this. I am really distraught this week. Really distraught. It's worse than I thought. It's worse than I knew even a week ago. The narcissistic rot and the moral inversion is much worse than I knew, and I'm one of the most cynical people on this topic. You know, I'm just this edge of black pilled, right?
It's really ugly seeing all of these people defend her, and I mean, I have to defend you for a second, and you know, this might not be comfortable live, but you're an easy target because you're a man. On this topic, especially borderline, women get really upset when you diagnose. But lay off.
Yeah, I'm also an easy target because I'm reactive.
Right. I mean, they can get your goat.
Yeah.
Like, lay off, people. Like, seriously, have a real look at what's going on here. What you're seeing isn't something that Josh has made up in his mind because of our mommy.
Nope.
We have mommy issues. They're legitimate issues. And we see some of the things that Lindsay Clancy has done as like offshoots of the kind of behavior that our mother would have been capable of pulling. I mean,
absolutely, we are seeing this. See, this is another double standard. I mean, the claims of sexism, it's all just a reversal. Men have been targeted by anti-male bigotry since the 1960s. Women have been in the fucking catbird seat. It's all a lie. It's all a reversal. Women have not been oppressed. Women have been jamming their high heels down on their own sons and husbands for generations. It has become so normalized that we just accept that every male character in a sitcom is a bumbling oaf. And if a man dares to complain about this or even mention it, those women will call him a pussy and says he have a little dick. And you wonder why I call women cunts sometimes. Here's the double standard. When a woman gets angry at men and talks about male violence and male sexual predation, and we see in her background that she was molested by her father or her uncle or her mother's boyfriend, we know what's happening here. We see what that abuse did to her. We understand. I mean empathy. I mean empathy and understanding.
Compassion.
Simply understand. I'm not talking about compassion. We can talk about that, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just empathy, just simply understanding, putting yourself in that position and saying, I can see how these circumstances led to this outcome, and I can understand that I might have made the same choices if those circumstances had happened to me. That's what empathy really means. It doesn't mean compassion or sympathy. Those are separate add-ons.
It leads to it.
We can see that. We can see that in that girl who was sexually abused. And none of us are surprised when she ends up on a stripper pole. None of us are surprised when she ends up being a prostitute. None of us are surprised when she starts sleeping around at 15. I did the male version of these things.
Yeah.
Right? I was never actually molested, but the sexual dysfunction in our household was certainly a form of sexual derangement. You know, and I did all of those classic things that you usually see in teen girls: the promiscuity, the dangerous sex, the drugs, all this. You know, we can see it in the girls, and we give them some slack. We say, yeah, it's not great that she hates men, but she has her reasons for it, right?
Right.
We don't do it at all for men.
No.
When a woman says, this happened to me in childhood and therefore I see this in all the men, all the women, all of them support her. All of them support her. Yep, I can understand. Well, I mean, don't pick on her. I mean, she has reasons for it, but they do the exact opposite when a man does it. The exact opposite. Suddenly, when I come up and say, I had a narcissistic mother, And I see aspects of her personality being normalized and being used by other women all the time. They laugh and they call it mommy issues. And they say, you just project, you think everyone is your mother. I had a show viewer, a longtime show viewer and supporter, send me an email this week accusing me. She wasn't mean to me, but the accusation was just the same thing. It was, you think all women are cluster B because you haven't resolved your mother issues. No, that's not true.
No.
That's not true. I don't think all women are cluster B. And forgive me, but anybody who says that to me, I actually question whether you're getting a little bit of a charge out of that. I think it might make you feel good.
It's the thesis of your show. What the hell do these people think you're going to talk about here?
I don't know. But the reality is, look, I can say this, I can say it in as clearly as possible, but my saying it isn't going to make other people agree with me to my frustration. I get it. But the reality is, I'm not right about everything, but I'm not wrong in the main about my diagnosis of society. There is a society-wide problem with female-specific narcissism and feminine abuse. This is real. I'm not projecting it from my mother. I used my mother as a learning template, and I now recognize an extant, objectively observable pattern. I know why most women don't want to hear it, but it's because it's true. It's because it's true. And this week,
weak men enable it, and we need them.
Oh
to
my
stop
God.
being weak.
I am so disappointed in men. I have a hard time figuring out how to phrase this and how to talk about it, because I don't want to give any ammunition to the people who are just waiting to blame this all on men, which is at least half the women in this country. But the reality is, there's no way I can say this that isn't going to provoke it, so I'm just going to say it the way it seems to me. Women aren't going to be good. There are good women out there. So many of them watch the show. Sane women, normal women, including women who used to be crazy wokies just like I was, right?
Recovered.
We've recovered. We've come back to sanity. Or me, I came to sanity for the first time at 41, started coming to sanity. I'm not all the way there, I know. But I've heard people say, women are going to have to start policing their own. And yes, there's a place for that. But I don't think I don't think the sane women can stop this. I think men are going to have to exercise cultural authority. I think men are going to have to do exactly the things they don't want to do, exactly the things that women say are oppressive, patriarchal things. I think men have to do them. Women are going to have to be corralled, not reasoned with, not requested, but told, forced
in their place
to shut up, forced out of positions that they're not qualified for, publicly shamed, including by men. Shut up, stop it. That's absurd, you're hysterical. All of those sexist, horrible, misogynist things that we're not allowed to say, these are the necessary medicine that is going to have to be said by men until women get their minds back. And it's going to be a long time. But men and women have to do this together. There has to be social pressure from sane women who remember that men and women are not the same, but that does not mean that one is above the other, but that we are all held to adult standards of responsibility and comportment and accountability for our behavior. They're going to have to start enacting a social cost on their women friends who behave this way, and it's going to be, I know those women are in the minority, and it's not going to be easy to hear, but men are going to have to do a lot more too. Men, you have got to stop being afraid of women. You have to stop being terrified of being called a misogynist. We have heard nothing but caterwauling and shrieking and demanding and petulant little girl bitch princess whining from, yes, it's that bad, from women for decades and decades and decades. And what do? We back off. I know, because I did it for 41 years. We back off. We say we're sorry. We apologize for having testicles. We say, I don't want to say it's because of your hormones. And then they come out and say, I killed my kids because of my hormones. No, bitch, you don't get to have it both ways. Yes, you are hysterical.
Yes, in the sense you don't like. I mean it that way. Yes. You are hysterical in a typically feminine way.
Well,
and normal, sane
hysterical
women
can only
all know that women have this capacity. It's part of their nature, just as it is part of men's nature to lose their temper and reach for violence first. It's just true. Men and women are what they are.
Mm-hmm.
How or if we good men and women are able to do this remains to be seen. I don't know if we can.
Well, I would like to put it out there that if there's any new fathers out there right now, and your girlfriend's on TikTok making videos with your baby, crying about Lindsay Clancy, you might want to be very careful. Keep an eye on her.
I said this on Twitter. You probably saw me say it on Twitter last night. Let me back up. Let me second what you said. Well, I said the same thing. You're smarter. I need to stay away from there for a few days. I really do. If your wife or girlfriend is sympathizing with Lindsay Clancy, your children are in danger.
She's
and so
struggling.
Are you.
Yep.
Okay?
She's struggling.
You need to
if
take
you want
this
to help
seriously.
Your woman, yeah, take it seriously. Not a joke. Okay? Because not only that, but the more cluster B individuals, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, but the more cluster B women traits that the cluster B traits that any women like this carry, the more likely they are to do a copycat type scenario.
Because women are socially conformist. It's part of evolutionary history. There's a reason for it. It has to do with family and community formation. It's a natural instinct that has been hijacked.
If they see that women can relate to this kind of behavior and garner sympathy for their distress, they may legitimately be postpartum depressed. They may legitimately need more help. And you should never stand in the way of getting it.
No.
But you shouldn't turn a blind eye.
No, and it means you need to be ready to physically corral your children out of her reach.
Yep.
I'm sorry, this is not a joke.
Protection has to be enacted.
You know, maybe she's having a hard time that she'll come out of, and I'm sure there are plenty of women out there who are not personality disordered, they're not irredeemable, but they're caught up in this, they're in a depression, they're caught up in the hysteria of what all their girlfriends are saying, and they do feel overwhelmed, but they need temporarily to be, you need to safe your children.
Yeah,
right?
Mitigate the problem, stay in the middle.
Document this, document the fuck out of this.
Yeah.
Anybody. Or if you're a woman and you see this happening with another woman in your family or among your friends, you know, document it, write it down, take screenshots, save the emails, and
dads, protect your kids.
You know, everybody, anybody, man, woman, dad, mother, if you see this in another woman in your life, the children are in danger.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Especially, moms, if you see your daughters sympathizing with Lindsay Clancy, it may be time for you to do a weekend visit. Okay? It may be time to talk to the father. If you're concerned, you can do something. Okay? That's what normal society should look like. It shouldn't be, let's all keep sympathy out for Lindsay Clancy. No. Guard your own and realize that that's not the normal behavior. Okay? And so, please watch out for the cluster Bs. They're going to start acting like this is the next abortion topic. I know.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm not. I just.
Today.
It's, you know, it's been between the Jason R. Day, because that's related.
Yeah.
That's why we did the show on it. It's conceptually related. The same dynamic is going on here. We are seeing evil perpetrators. Evil. Lindsay Clancy is a bad person.
She's a liar, just like Jason R.
Jason R. Day was a bad person. He was not a victim. He was a perpetrator. Was he a tool? Yep. Was he a pawn used by other disordered people? Yep, absolutely. Do they bear responsibility for the absolute mess they've made of academia? Absolutely. They've all done wrong. But Jason R. Day was not a victim any more than my deranged stepfather, my mother's husband, who has been
berated and abused and called a fucking retard for a congenital brain injury. My mother bragged to Jesse years ago that she only just prevented herself from cracking his head open with a skillet. So she ended up putting a hole in the wall instead with the skillet. You know, I tried to rescue him. I was genuinely afraid she would kill him. And I waited one day until I drove up this dirt road where my mother was living, and I hid behind a stand of trees to wait to see for her to take her car to go to the grocery store so that I knew she'd be out of the house. I was ready to take him to a shelter, and I called him and I said, "We can leave now. I'm worried about you. I'm afraid she'll kill you." He laughed at me and then he screamed at me. And he told me I was insane. He told me there was nothing wrong with my mother. And I said, "Well, what do you call this?" He said, "Well, I swear to God, Stockholm Syndrome, I've seen it with my own eyes." He said, "Well, she just has decided that she's not going to take my shit anymore, and she's right."
God, I'd forgotten he said that.
Yeah, that's what he said to me. And then he said, "You're insane, Josh. You are insane. You have a personality disorder. You are the abuser." And this was the first time I'd had to encounter that face to face. And I admit, I hung up the phone and I sat there and I fucking lost it. I just bawled. I had no idea how to deal with this. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I was trying to save this man's life. And he did it. But people do this, right? So I'm sorry, I went too far afield with this. The enabling has to stop. People have to wake up. I was an enabler. I was never as extreme as that, but I've been an enabler and I've been on the other side of it. But I don't know how you guys are feeling. If any of you out there are feeling as destabilized and as if your compass won't point in the right direction and you can't find magnetic north, I feel it too. That's what I feel these past couple of weeks. This has been more disorienting for me than I've experienced in about 5 years. I'm telling the truth when I say I was shocked into a new level of reality these past couple of weeks. As cynical as I am doing this show for 5 years, I didn't understand the depth of it, and I'm seeing it now, and I'm accommodating myself to it in real time. So if any of you are feeling that too, you're not alone.
Nope.
And you know, I've had clients who've made consulting and coaching sessions with me lately who said some similar things. That I've had a run of people who say something like, "I know what the problem is. I know what's wrong with my dad. I know what's wrong with my mother. There's no mystery, but I just have to talk to somebody who sees the same things that I see and doesn't think I'm crazy." And I'm glad to. I'm very open to that. Anybody can. I'm glad to be that person, but I'm really distraught that that's necessary. I'm really distraught that so many of us who have our eyes open have to try to turn to each other in this way and say, "Will you tell me if this is real?" You know?
It's real. But yeah.
So that's probably enough for today's stream. That's a lot of heavy stuff.
It's a lot of heavy stuff, but there's a lot to say about it, so I'm sure this topic won't be dead for a while.
No. But thank you for joining the live stream, everybody. I really appreciate it. It's nice to see so many of you who watch the show on Sundays come in here too. It's nice to be able to interact with you a little bit more.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. If you know somebody who could use the perspective that comes out on Disaffected, please tell them about the show. Word of mouth matters, especially when you're not the algorithm's favorite.
Yeah, share it around.
So, yeah, I'll take. Let me just say this before we close up, because people have asked this question, and I don't know the answer, but I have a little bit more data than I had before. So this past show, the one about Jason Arday, the one we called Psycho, it's just big red letters said Psycho. Our average views on YouTube alone are somewhere between 3 and 4K a week, and it's been a struggle to get up to that. Yes, of course, it's possible that what Kevin and I put out is simply not what the market wants, and the market isn't buying it because it's not a good product. That is possible. But it's impossible to know. And I realize it's rather niche, too. People have described my approach as an acquired taste, and that's fair. But it has seemed a little strange to us that it should be that niche. So at any rate, we're always wondering, are we algorithmically disfavored? Are we shadow banned? Are we not shadow banned, but do we just not show up much? Like, how much of this is the digital management of who we get put in front of? And so here's the new data. So that show is up to like 15 or 16,000 views, which for us is a lot, right? We've struggled this summer to get past 2.3 thousand on YouTube. So this show just broke containment, and we got 500 new subscribers on YouTube. I don't know what to make of that data, but it suggests to me that if people saw this, that there is more of a market for it because 500 people said, yes, I want to see more of this kind of content. I just don't know. So if you guys are curious what's going on, we don't know either, but that's what happened this time. So.
Oh, I also want feedback. If any of your viewers want to give feedback about clips, segments, length that they would like to see.
Yeah, leave a comment under here. Jess is starting up again doing cut downs and clips of our show for us. And if you want particular things, or particularly if you're anybody who knows you have actual professional knowledge of what plays well, what gets a lot of exposure, tell us. We are here to learn, and we will gratefully accept your advice.
Yeah.
So that's going to do it for the live stream. We'll be out, of course, on Rumble, YouTube, and Twitter X on Sunday at 9 p.m. U.S. Eastern, as every week. Thank you for joining us. And again, please take a minute before you leave. Make sure you've hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure you've hit the subscribe button on Rumble as well. And please hit the notification bell. Leave a comment. Even if your comment is just comment, as some people do, which always cracks me up. I appreciate it. I know why you're doing it. Even just writing the word comment actually helps in some algorithmic
it's great.
way.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for spending your Wednesday, Jess. Thanks for talking with me on the show. And we'll see you guys again next time. Take care.
Bye.